Yes. I think it says 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I think I had to sign something there.
Pause recording now. So I don't know. It's probably recording now. Not sure. Normally it does 3, 2, 1. Anyway, guys, if it's recording, welcome to Simply Raw Foods Raw Interviews, and Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Moddie Lambert from Simply Raw Feeding, and a huge welcome to Joe from Ingenious Probiotics, who I had the pleasure of meeting last August at Edition Dog, I think, for the first time. And then since then, we've had some pretty long chats, and I started using Ingenious products, gosh, a few months ago, and love it, absolutely love it. Thank you, Joe, for supporting the Raw Feeding Vet Society, because without your help, we couldn't really survive. We're spreading the word of fresh and raw. And yes, your products aren't fresh and raw, but I believe that they are essential for not only the transition if you're doing fresh and raw, but for our households to be healthy, clean, and full of the correct bacteria. Anyway, so I went bang on. So, so Joe, what are topical probiotics and how do they work? Okay.
Hello, Moddie, and hello, everybody. So topical is a fancy way of saying on the surface, on top. So topical probiotics, we use that phrase really to differentiate them from the digestive probiotics that raw feeders especially would be aware of adding to healthy diets. So our probiotics are for the outside of the pet and the home that the pet occupies. So just think of surfaces. So that's what the topical bit means. Probiotic is another fancy term we like to use to make us sound clever, but really all that is it's an umbrella term from someone like the World Health Organization, and it is just a term to say here's a microorganisms that confer a benefit to the host. So they're good microorganisms, whatever that good happens to be. So topical probiotics is basically then we're using probiotics to do a job that up until now would normally be done with some kind of antibacterial. So
it kills everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I was talking to a fantastic vet up here in Essex recently, and he was describing that when the pet enters his surgery and he's looking at the pet, he says, what I'm seeing is trillions of microorganisms all working together in harmony in the gut, on the skin, in the ear, whatever. And to be able to treat the pet properly, you've got to consider this whole microbiome that's going on and slightly around the pet. So he bears that in mind then when he's on to looking at the problem or diagnosis of it. So what do probiotics do and how do they work? And let's try and keep this within, what'd you say, 3 hours? Okay.
10.
So what the probiotics are doing is we're putting them, let's say, on the skin, and they outcompete bad bacteria. So this is a pro-life approach rather than an anti-life chemical approach to change that balance, because everything's got bacteria on it, you know. And when we were talking earlier before on camera where the advertisements, you know, we grew up with the advertisement says this product kills 99% of germs, 99% of bugs. And then when you say to someone, well, can you explain what a germ is? Can you give me the technical definition of germ or the technical definition of bug? Because we don't like them, right? You know, these are bad things. The guy on the TV says, got to get rid of these germs, got to get rid of these bugs. And don't get me wrong, we should wash our hands, by the way. So what they're actually referring to is this microbiota, little bits of fungus, yeast, and gazillions of various different types of bacteria. And you got to remember as well that all life on the planet, all life comes from bacteria. The air we breathe comes from bacteria. We are covered in the stuff. We depend on the stuff in our guts and whatever to do a job. And everything, every single surface on the planet, maybe there's somewhere in Antarctica, maybe that doesn't have much bacteria. Apart from that, everything's covered in bacteria. So here we come along and try and kill it. So here's your pet walking into the surgery, and you're looking at it, and it's covered in bacteria. So hold that in your mind when you're talking about how to fix whatever you think may be the problem. So with this microbiome, you can have something that's in balance or something that's out of balance. And that might sound a little bit witchy-woo, but really what we're just talking about is saying, look, you have some of the bacteria is bad. It's not good, but it's a tiny, tiny proportion, a tiny amount. I think something like 0.01% of bacteria is actually bad for you, is pathogenic. And the rest is really good. So what we do is we put lots more of the good bacteria into that skin, or onto the ear, or onto the gums, or into the wound, or whatever happens to be on the kitchen floor, rather than try and wipe out all the bad bacteria and throw the baby out with the bath water and get rid of all the good at the same time, which has got some connotations we'll talk about just in a couple of minutes. Rather than try and do that, we just simply put lots of the good bacteria in. So
it kills the bad.
What it does is it actually competes with food for food. So the bad bacteria it's bad bacteria, they need food, and food is going to be organic waste and so on and so forth. So the probiotics are going to get in there first. So think of it like a free bar, and the probiotics are 10 deep at the free bar, and the bad guys at the back, they're just never going to get served. That's it. So I don't know why a free bar jumped into my head, but you get the analogy. You know,
you are it. Come on.
Yeah. So we're starving out the bad bacteria. We're taking away their food source. So the bad bacteria just fade away. Now, a little bit of bad bacteria, as long as there's a tiny minority of them, then it's not a problem. You know, and I use a football analogy when I was talking to somebody during the World Cup, and I said, well, if Argentina had 1,000 guys on the pitch, it wouldn't matter if France had 11 Mbappes. They still only got 11 versus 1,000. So think of it like, no matter how good Mbappe is, right, he's smothered. So we have that outcompeting thing going on. Into the bargain, what these good little probiotics are doing is that they're eating that organic waste, and that organic waste can be bioallergens. So you'll hear people say, my pet's allergic to dust mites. And if you drill down, there's 99% chance that it's not the dust mite that the human or the pet is allergic to. It's the excrement, the poop, right, of the dust mite. So the probiotics will eat that for food. They'll eat dead skin cells and bits of pollens and all these things that are bioallergens that you might be breathing in. We're getting rid of those, or reducing those, should I say, and reducing the bad bacteria that organic waste would normally attract in. Now,
and that's in something like this lovely stuff I've got here, which smells divine, actually.
Yeah,
and that's the doggy allergen-free one.
Yeah, I just love that, and you can use it directly onto the pet. So my vet uses it for atopic dermatitis. Again, atopic just mean on the skin. Atopic dermatitis can have lots of different causes, but what the probiotics are doing in that case is they're getting just exactly as I described. They're getting into the skin. They're 10 deep at the free bar. They're eating the organic waste, so helping with the hygiene of the skin, but they're keeping the bacteria away. They would normally cause that irritation and inflammation and so on. And then just letting the skin do its own thing and repair itself, This is very important when it comes to odor control as well, because
that's not smelly strong. That's the very gentle, because obviously dogs' sense of smell is 5,000 to 10,000 times stronger than us, and they don't like strong things at all. But my guys do not mind that at all. It's almost like roses, actually.
Well, and it's like all our products. If you open the cap and you smell, you go, "Oh, I like the smell of that." It's okay, but then use it and smell's gone, because clean doesn't have a smell, right? Not clean has a smell, but clean doesn't have a smell. And usually those odors, by the way, they're coming from organic sources. They're coming from organic waste. So the bacteria that's attracted by the organic waste. So what's happening with the probiotics? Getting rid of the organic waste. We're reducing the odor causing bad bacteria. And then hopefully that means that people then aren't using chemicals to mask smells.
Which, Joe, we never did as children. We didn't really have chemicals in our house as kids growing up. I don't know, I think there was a little bit of bleach that went down the loo, but we played outside in the mud, we had animals. And if I look at all my friends who have children with allergies, they're all from very, very clean households where everything is immaculate. And it's quite interesting to think about that, because I hadn't before we were talking tonight, but suddenly it's come to mind, and it's like, yeah, wow. That is, my boys grew up with chickens and ferrets and dogs and cats and ponies and dirt. Some people say you can't even make sourdough in your kitchen if it's not dirty. Well, I can't make sourdough and my kitchen is dirty, so that's not true. But I think learning to live with this good, it frightens me where everything's bleached, everything, and don't get me started on hand sanitizers. But
I remember writing to a high street chain right at the beginning of lockdown and saying the hand sanitizers you're selling are going to cause a problem. There's going to be antimicrobial resistance. They're going to cause stronger bugs. And then I think it was one of the daily newspapers in the July printed exactly pretty much what we said. And this idea of not only are they wiping the microbiome, and hand sanitizer is a great example. So they're wiping the microbiome off your hands, but they're not getting rid of the dirt. They're not getting rid of the food for the bad bacteria.
Oh, really?
So the recontamination time is really quick. So again, just like using a bleach type product or something with quats in it, whatever, you've got all this chemical that you're bringing into the home. And remember that the dog is much more exposed to the chemicals than we are, but your recontamination time is super quick. So you kill all the microbiome on, let's say, your kitchen floor, or maybe on your dog's skin or in your dog's ear, and ask yourself, what happens next? So if you're cleaning your veterinary consultation room and you're cleaning with an antimicrobial, what happens next? Well, you've got, depending on what reports you read, a number of minutes, maybe 20 minutes before that surface is covered with a layer of bacteria again, because it's all around us and we're breathing it in, it's falling off us and so on. So you've killed all the competition. You don't then know what's going to recolonize that surface. Again, that surface being either the dog's skin or the dog's paw or the table or whatever. So what we do with the probiotics is that we do know it's going to recolonize that because we're putting it there. So we're putting those, and that spray you mentioned, for example, I'd use that on bedding, I'd use it on my bedding, and we're putting a microbiome in there. So we take control of it, and that'll keep working for about 3 days. So for 3 days, those microbes are in there doing their thing. So you don't get a recontamination time, because you're going to keep topping up. Whereas an antibacterial going to wipe out everything, and then you're wide open. And you see this particularly with repeat ear infections.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, and the amount of times I see people talking about I remember, slow down, Joe, slow down. I had a note to self, slow down. But I see this spoken about with antibacterial, anti-life products, and people will use the phrase, I always use this when my dog gets a flare-up. And I'm going, what do you mean you always get a flare-up? Why are you always getting a flare-up? Well, the reason is you're wiping out the microbiome and you're not in control of what happens next. And a vet friend of mine was telling me that when they were doing analysis of this particular, major problem, when they check the repeat infections and they send the samples away, the swabs away for testing, they'd find a different pathogenic bacteria each time. So it wasn't the same, there wasn't the same infection coming back. They were wiping out the microbiome with antibiotics and antibacterials and so on. But then the ear was infested. Yes. So
that's all gut, isn't it? That's definitely all gut.
Well, yeah, you can initially, and then what happens is you treat it with antibacterials and you wipe out the microbiome, and then what happens next? And maybe the original cause is gone because maybe you have sorted out the diet, but now you started this chain reaction. So they found putting the probiotics in there just stopped that. And we had some good results with dogs who were lined up for surgery to remove their inner ear, then not having had the surgery and not getting the repeat ear infections just by taking control of that microbiome instead of wiping it out. So that's where we're different. Have we answered question 1 yet, by the way? Is that
We're not, but I might have added in. No, we've only got 20. But I liken it, Joe, to going back to the hateful Flash advert where Flash kills everything, and
Yeah.
you see that great big black and white poor dog padding along the floor, and what's he going to do? He's going to lick his paws, and you go, oh God, that's just so sad, isn't it?
Well, I hear people say sometimes, oh, it's okay, I keep the dog out until the floor dries.
Doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make it. Your dog is going to sweat through his pads and then walk across. So he's going to absorb through the skin. And as you say, he's going to lick. So now he's ingesting. And of course, where has the chemicals gone? Have they evaporated? So is he also breathing it in? And
the skin is your biggest organ, isn't it? It's on the body. So
that's it. He's lying.
It goes down to, as we were talking about earlier, there's so many things, whether it's just your household cleaning, whether it's everything you put on your skin, from your toothpaste to your skincare to your shower gel to whatever. And I've been quite clean actually quite a long time because I'm weird.
Well, some of these as well are in our control, and you're very aware of all this, Moddie. I know you are, but some of it's outside of your control. And a lady called Anna Webb was telling me recently about a study, I think she was involved in, where they put an air quality monitor around a dog's collar and did the school walk, walking the kids.
Oh, she's in London, isn't she? Yeah.
Yeah. And but they were finding that down low where the pet was, there's more pollution. So that's just when they walk to school. But that would be then the same on the kitchen floor in your own house. So maybe you can't control exactly the pollution, and you think, well, I walk out in the countryside. Well, you don't know what it's spraying in the fields.
Absolutely, I totally agree. In rivers, everything. I think you've just got to do the best you can for not only us as humans, but for our pets who we want to look after. And it's education, isn't it? It's a bit like raw feeding. We're trying to educate people on a fresh, raw, species appropriate diet, and so much of what you comes into it, because you can get the diet right, but if your household is full of crappy chemicals, then it's not really gonna help.
That's right. So it's about both, and we would say that when people ring us up, we say, well, I'm going to assume you're looking after your diet, and they go, oh yeah, we're raw feeding. Oh, okay, right. We know the kind of person we're talking to, and we can have that kind of conversation, which is open, and we generally speaking, you're going to find that the people who are understanding raw feeding are going to be aware, first of all, that there is a microbiome.
Absolutely.
Right. They're going to be aware of the importance of it, and they're already super taking care of their pets, and willing to make changes around the home or whatever if that's a benefit. So yeah, we find a real correlation with what we do, and the raw feeding community, especially when the pet is transitioning for the first time, because or changing what he's eating, because usually that's happening because of some kind of problem, usually a skin problem or an ear problem, sometimes a dental problem. So we find it then they're being recommended our product to help accelerate the benefits of the change. So while the benefits of the diet change are kicking in, while they're sort of working their way from the inside out, then we're applying topically. We're getting the probiotics on there to help with that issue. So I think that's one of the reasons why we're very much in the same mind when it comes to the raw feeding. Yeah.
Are there any situations where you wouldn't advise a topical probiotic?
Not really. The only time when that we kind of stand back and say, look, we might be a secondary product, is if there's a real issue with yeast. And again, we say, look, yeast is lots of. Yeah, you've got a microbiota in the skin, it's imbalance, and the natural yeast is just gaining ascendancy, and you've got an issue. And getting rid of that in the first place can take longer with a probiotic. So if people are going to do something that's quicker, we'd say, okay, but get the probiotic in straight away. Think of it like a relay runner where they're handing the baton over, and there's a period where they're almost running together, full pelt. So don't have a gap between using that product for the short term and then getting the probiotics in there, so you don't have that situation we were talking about earlier with the ears, where you've reduced and removed the natural defense and natural microbiome that's just keeping things in balance,
Normally, if it's an ear thing, sugar, obviously sugar, we take out veg and any kind of sugar, because sugars are clearly an inflammatory. But that's, yes, because I know your My little guy's not wild about having things sprayed in his mouth, so I need to get on top of that because I have got some of your dental thing, but maybe I'll use it for myself.
Well, you know, officially we can't comment, but the physiology between, you know, what's going on in a dog's mouth in terms of microbiota and a human's mouth, you know, okay, they're going to eat some things we don't eat. They're going to do some things with the mouth we don't do. But generally speaking, the process is the same when it comes to a probiotic. The fact that we're getting into when it comes to the pet, we're getting into the sockets, you know, those areas that are difficult to clean, where the gum and the teeth meet, and getting and eating on that organic waste. And that organic waste is, you know, that's associated with issues in the heart, in the kidney, in the brain. Yeah. So once you get infection into those blood vessels in the gums, and that's traveling throughout. So I saw Maya actually on Brendan Clark's. Oh,
they did a cat one on a Friday.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because he was asking about you know, first signs of kidney issue, and she just said dental health.
Dental health, yeah, fine. Massive in dogs and cats, yeah.
Well, so and our guy gets the dental because he had gingivitis, and so we find that the probiotics keep the gingivitis away, just simply by, again, outcompeting the bad bacteria and also getting rid of that organic waste. So when it comes to dental health, it's not all just about that Hollywood smile. It's about, you know, it can be a much deeper. Much deeper.
So would you recommend, if you did the dental spray on a dog or a cat, you do it last thing at night before they're going to go to sleep?
Yeah, that's a good time. My cat's he's a devil, really, because every time I spray it, he gets up and he stretches and he walks. It makes him think, oh, it's time for food, and he walks up and he
likes it.
He likes it, yeah. But then he eats. So we don't want him eating. We want to stay in the oral cavity. We want the probiotics to stay in the dental area. We don't want it to go down the gullet. So yeah, anytime after feeding, I think is a good time. And with most of our range, when we talk about when is appropriate to use it, how often to use it, if there's an issue, we say, look, start with twice a day and then throttle back to a couple of times a week. You know,
okay, so just get it in there to start with, so it's starting to eat the bad bacteria.
Yeah. And it's important to say, it's, you know, because you got with the vets listening, it's not a medical device, but neither is it chemical, so there's no overdose concern. You just don't want to like waste your money too much. Don't use it too much, you know. But so yeah, start with twice a day and then throttle back. You can use that for most applications, whether it's eye care, wound care, ears in particular. Yeah.
Fascinating. So we said that. Okay, so what does the future hold for you and topical probiotics?
Wow, you know,
very big.
Wow, it's just, you know, we've taken the lid off, and there's things we're doing at the minute which are just really, 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 really exciting. And the pet world is where we're strongest. But with Gregory back at base in Luca, he's doing a project with dairy farms. He's got doing. I don't want to say too much because it's not out yet, but we're looking at the microbiome in the stalls where
they're kept in too much. They're not in fields, are they?
They're not in fields at the moment, you know. But now you're getting into mastitis prevention, and there's an awful lot of chemicals get used in mastitis prevention, and we think we can make real inroads into reducing the chemical exposure of those animals. So that's a whole thing. We got some fantastic stuff going off with dental. There's a dental project that I can't say too much about, but it'll be centered around raw feeding.
For animals, not people.
Not people, yeah, exactly. So, well, you could feed raw people to the dogs, I guess, but you know, some people. But yeah, so we got that, and obviously the cleaning side of it. So reducing, we got a couple of things going on at the moment with demonstrations on projects how to reduce people's chemical exposure and pets' chemical exposure. So, and then we got a new product coming out which is to do with lactic acid, which is derived from the probiotics, and that's just off the chart with what the guys are doing.
Wow.
We got a test going on at the moment, or not a test, but a sampling right across Europe. And if anybody wants to get involved with this, and any vets out there want to get involved, contact us. But we're taking swabs of dogs, both healthy dogs and dogs with atopic dermatitis. And we're just doing a large sort of survey, if you like.
Brilliant.
Yes, we got some stuff going on with ear care, and it's just off the chart. Actually, it's really
Probably better tests than some other companies we know who make dry pet food do on not many dogs at all. Yours might be real science, Joe. That would be quite exciting.
Yeah. You know, I'll have to get myself a little white coat and everything. But it's great when you go back to Luca, and you know everybody's either a microbiologist or a biochemist and or a vet or a cell culturist, and it's
Where is Luca exactly?
in Luxembourg.
Okay.
Yeah, and Luca, just you know, Luca was the name of the dog of one of the researchers. And we have different, so we got Eva, which is the home cleaning range, and Eva was the cleaning lady that they kept saying, smell that, what do you think?
Oh, I wonder, but I got Eva in the house. I had no idea. I got
Yeah.
Eva.
And the first product actually they made was for cleaning dental spittoons, to try and reduce the amount of chemicals for cleaning dental spittoons, and using a probiotic approach for that, which worked really well and led on to
And are they more expensive than the alternative bleachy rubbish?
I'd say because we do such a wide range, there's products that just aren't available elsewhere. So there isn't a comparison. Yeah. Are they more expensive? Well, you know, I'm going to say they don't cost the earth.
No, they don't. You don't need very much. I mean, I really don't wash my kitchen floor very often. I use very little.
And you can buy bleach really quick. I mean, they make so much bleach, you can buy it really cheaply. But our concentrates are really well priced. So they are really surprisingly well priced. And I like the concentrates because, of course, you're using less packaging and so on. But they're really, I don't want to use the word cheap, but they're really well priced, actually. So
they're very concentrated. And I find when I use the floor cleaner, I use your floor cleaner and your surface cleaner. You don't need very much.
That's
So
it.
Maybe I've never worked out the price comparison because I'm not prepared to use chemicals in the house, but I don't think it's that expensive at all.
Theoretically, as well, depending on the application. If it's not a surface that's being dirtied regularly, then theoretically you can actually elongate the time between one clean and another clean, because we're not doing that wiping out the microbiome on that surface, be it the kitchen table or whatever. We're actually putting a biome on there that we know will stay active for at least 3 days.
And it's easy to go as well.
Yeah, and getting into the nooks and crannies, getting into places that's difficult to actually clean. So when you do the clean, you walk away, and they keep working, and it's getting cleaner and cleaner as you walk away. As opposed,
that's not what most people's sort of mindset thinks of, is it? You think of, I've got to kill that bleach 2 years ago. You don't think, oh, I'll spray it. And yes, it's fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
I was talking about this with somebody today, one of our stockists, because we have got some fantastic stockists, and a lot of them would be raw feeding suppliers, and they're well educated, dedicated. You could just imagine, and giving advice to the clients and so on. But this guy we were sharing the fact that we'd both been sent at various times pictures of male dog genitalia, and that needs explaining very quickly. So
where's this going, Joe?
Yeah, but it was to do with chemical burns, you know, very mild chemical burns, because some dogs can sweat in areas where they're not covered by fur as well as the pads. So it was to do with what people were cleaning the kitchen floor with, and the dog would come back from a run, be all sweaty, and be sitting on the floor,
lie on the floor, and then splay out.
And so the connotations are right there. So you know, when you're talking about diet, when you're talking about nutrition, what's the other things that are going on? And anxiety is one of those things. You know, we find ourselves asking people about, not every time, but sometimes you pick up on a conversation and you go, well, how are you? Are you looking after yourself?
Don't even start me on that subject. That's another one.
So yeah. People, do look after yourself. Reduce your own chemical exposure for a start. Why not? So look after your pet, and you're looking after yourself at the same time. Absolutely.
And how can we get hold of them? Through ingeniousprobiotics.com.
Yeah, ingenious-probiotics.com. So everything's on there, but we also have, like I say, a couple of dozen stockists up and down the country, and some other people working online and so on. And you know, we love it. Go in there, you can have a chat, ask them. You can go on our website and you can see the list of stockists, by the way. So hopefully there's one near whoever's watching this, if there's one near you, go in and support them and so on. Tons and tons of information on our website, and we get that a comment about that quite a lot, that we've put good information on there. You know, grab yourself a coffee or a glass of wine and sit down and read some of it bit by bit, because there's a lot of it. Good glass of red, you know, here's me, this isn't gin, so
I don't believe you. Well, that's brilliant, and I'm sorry for anyone watching this in the future, because we really had meant to do this live and it hasn't happened, but we can always answer questions. So when it goes on to wherever it's going to go, just please feel free to ask any questions. And I think we should probably do another one, Joe, because we've only done half an hour and I think there's an awful lot more to talk about. So maybe when you've got your new products out, or there's something more to say, I don't know if you'd be happy to come on again.
Oh, listen, we'd be very happy. And when it comes to questions as well, we love questions, because it gives us either a chance to show off because we know what we're talking about, or it gives us a chance to learn because it's something we don't know, and then we know it the next time. So please, any questions like you've got, fire them onto our website, ask away. We also started keeping a list of the questions, because there's fantastic information there for people. But just be prepared. If you ask us a question, be prepared for us to say, how are you? Is your anxiety okay? You know, what we assume you're feeding correctly.
It's absolutely holistic. I totally get that. It's if I'm brave enough in consults, I ask people, and I'd say maybe 80% of the people I treat have got the same issue as their dog. It's quite frightening.
Crazy. And be prepared as well for when you talk about your dog's skin, we're going to say what you're cleaning your kitchen floor with, and it's not because we're trying to sell another floor cleaner
or shampoo.
We have to do that, but it's all part of it. You cannot separate what the skin is coming in contact with, what the dog is breathing in. And just to give you an idea, just before we go on that, you know what you eat an average, you know the kilograms you eat per day, and you can see the size of your dog and the kilograms that dog eats per day. Well, a guy my size probably breathes in 12 to 15 kilograms of air, which is way more than I drink or eat. Right? So we pay attention to our food, but remember, your dog is closer to the surfaces, he's closer to the pollution outside, and he's breathing, in terms of kilograms, way more than he eats, and bringing it into his little body and filtering out all those nasties. And that's why one of the reasons they find so many chemicals, so much more chemicals in a dog.
There's horrible plugins that absolutely are so toxic for dogs, and people don't have a clue. Yeah. I had a client last year who was burning candles, and her dog got considerably more ill, had kidney problems. And I asked her, I said, are you burning a candle? And she said, how do you know? And I said, it's a guess, but I'm just got to ask it. And she said, my daughter's just given me one for Mother's Day, took it out, problem was reduced quite drastically, quite quickly.
Yeah. And I think Karen Becker put a post out on that just recently. And my background is air quality as well. So we're used to, if somebody's in a home where it's not well ventilated, or it's ventilated in a not great area, don't talk about fresh air unless you're somewhere where the air is actually fresh outside. But if you're drying clothes on a radiator, that's an issue. If you're burning gas to cook, that's an issue.
Another subject, Joe, completely. Isn't it? I mean, crikey, mold is evil.
Mold is crazy. And we had a client from not this country, from another country, contact us, and they had mold issues, and they had sent away for tests, and they tested the dog, and the dog had mold. They had mold, and what could we do? So we managed to help them quite a lot. But the first thing I said was, have you had any leaks, any water leaks? Oh yeah, we had a leak under the bathroom. Okay, you need a plumber. so sometimes it is very holistic. You got to look, the whole.
And often people blame the food, or they're very quick at blaming dog food. Actually, well, certainly where I come from, they are. But no, well, Joe, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, and we will get you back again if that's okay.
Brilliant. And you guys keep up the fantastic, very, very important work.
We will. And I'm going to press stop recording a minute, and then I'm going to grab you for 2 seconds before we leave, if that's okay. Yeah. But thanks, Joe. Happy New Year. And we'll look forward to having another yak soon.